Here we go, you guys. It's the second Balls Deep breakdown of the week. It's Wednesday afternoon here, 5 o'clock Central Time. On my channel, we already handled a Balls Deep breakdown on the Joel Alvarez versus Arman Tsarukyan fight. And last night, we broke down all 12 fights on the UFC Vegas 49 card from a statistical perspective on just the tip. And here we are. It's Wednesday. That means we're going to do more Balls Deep breakdowns. Shout out to my guy, F. Carrillo, who asked to do Balls Deep breakdowns on this fight, the Terrance McKinney versus Ziam fight, and as well the Armen Petrosyan versus Gregory Hobocop Rodriguez, which I will be going live tonight after the Club and Sub podcast is done, probably around 10:30 Central Time. But we've got work to do here today, you guys. We're going to break down this banger of a fight that is on the undercard, a couple of great young prospects here, and a fight that I think will deliver a ton of action, and not just at the books, you guys, in the cage as well. Can't wait to break this one down with you guys. Let's see what you guys are up to in the chat here. We have got my guy Victor DeJesus first in the room saying, "Oi, yes." Greetings, everyone. It's time to go balls deep. Yes, it is. And Raw Torque is saying, that Uncle Weezy. Weezy is the people's champion capper. I appreciate that, Raw Torque. It's good to have you in here, brother. Big up yourself. We got Daz Files saying, T-Rex is agreed to do a round one submission in Twitter. Here's hoping. Let's go and BOL. I don't know what BOL is. Bet Online? I'm such a degenerate gambler. I probably is Bet Online, but good to see you in here, Daz Files. Appreciate you. Big Checks only saying, "Oi, let's fucking get it. Let's do that." And Raw Torque saying Weezy, and my guy Matt saying, "Oh, yeah." All right, you guys. I think my guy Smooth Jimmy is ready to break down this fight. So let's get him up here on the screen. And let's start looking at all the angles that we can find here for this very intriguing UFC Vegas 49 undercard matchup here between Terrance McKinney, also known as T-Rex, and we got Ziam, known as the Smile Killer, you guys. Like I said, both of these guys are very young. They're new to mixed martial arts to a certain extent. But 24 years old for Ziam, 27 for McKinney. We got a 3-inch height advantage here for Ziam and a 2-inch reach advantage. It's going to be McKinney fighting out of both stances. Ziam really more of an orthodox, but he'll switch stances as well. McKinney, doesn't spend a lot of time switching stances, but he definitely does do that. I believe Ziam is now training at Sanford, is it? I believe it's Sanford, you guys. I know that he was at Bulgarian Top Team, and we've got Terrance McKinney coming out of Sick Jitsu in the Pacific Northwest, France for Ziam, and it is the United States for Terrance McKinney. So definitely a nice little size advantage here for Ziam without question. 3 years younger, 3 inches taller, 2-inch reach advantage. So that 2-inch reach advantage will come in handy in the striking if Terrance McKinney doesn't pressure him. Yep, and Raw Torque saying Sanford. So yes, he was at Bulgarian Top Team, but, he's so young. I think he worked a lot of his wrestling game with them, and now it's time to come over to the States since he'll probably be doing the majority of his fighting here. So it's good to see him training here in the States, working with a different camp, learning new things. Yeah, man, so let's go. We got Ziam now is going to be the slightly more experienced mixed martial artist here with one more professional fight. But if we notice, he's got almost 100 more minutes in the cage. So even though he's only got one more fight, he's just a lot more comfortable in there. His fights do tend to go a lot longer than Terrance McKinney's. Over a 14-fight career, this is a very interesting number, you guys. 2.43 minutes over a 14-fight sample size for Terrance McKinney is the average fight time. So this guy is, almost always done in the first round here. While we got Ziam is about 8.23 minutes. And it's Ziam who's been doing this about 3 years longer than Terrance McKinney as a pro. So in Terrance McKinney's 4 years as a pro here, he's been fighting about 3.5 times a year. And for Ziam, it's been about 2 times a year. So McKinney's been the much more active mixed martial artist, but we haven't seen him since his knockout win over Matt Frivola because Terrance, why did you do it, man? You hurt your leg celebrating the knockout. You pulled a Johnny Walker and you injured yourself celebrating a spectacular knockout. My God, what a way to get hurt. Terrance, please don't do anything like that again, man. You know, it just you guys, it just fires me up. People doing things like that. It's like doing that little dance after you make a nice interception. You're going for the pick six, and then you do that little dance before you get to the goal line, and some dude that didn't give up on the play strips you of the ball, and then you got to go back to the coach, and he's going to absolutely destroy you for that. And they're going to light you up in the film room, and every sports commentator is going to put you out on Front Street. Well, this is the kind of thing that causes that kind of question out there about you. And yeah, I don't want to see him hurting himself celebrating knockouts anymore. I just want to see him getting these knockouts. But that's why we haven't seen Terrance McKinney here in a minute. And then I know that this fight was already supposed to happen and it got called off. But I don't know. I think it was the McKinney side. It might have been somebody in his corner that tested positive for COVID or something. I don't know why this fight got canceled, or I should say rescheduled, but it did. It's Fares Ziam with much more UFC experience, even though he's only got one more fight. He's got almost 40 more minutes in the UFC cage in comparison to Terrance McKinney. And we've got a nice little this is an interesting situation when you have a two-fight sample size for Terrance McKinney, and the average fight time is 3.47 minutes in the UFC. And then we got 3 fights for Fares Ziam, and we got a 15-minute average fight time. So all 3 of Fares's fights have went to decision, and all 2 of Terrance McKinney's fights have ended in the first round. Or no, one ended in the second round, one ended in the first. So which one of these fighters has their way? Because if Ziam gets his way and he fights the way that he's most comfortable, this fight could be going to decision, and he's the only one here that's ever won a decision. And if McKinney goes out there and brings that chaos that he usually brings and stays in people's face and pressures and wrestles and looks for submissions and ground and pound, he'll get his way, and this fight will probably finish inside the distance. But I've always said, when you've got a killer be killed fighter, a guy that really has never even seen a third round, it's usually that style that gets brought into the octagon, because they fight that way because they're not comfortable winning minutes. They're comfortable destroying their opponents. If there were great minute winners, you know what they don't do? They don't blow out their knee celebrating a win, because you don't really celebrate a win when you have to wait for the referee to raise your hand because you won a boring 30-27 decision. You hurt your knee when you blast the dude in the first 10 seconds of the round, and then you do backflips and vault up onto the cage. So Terrance McKinney's a moment winner. Fares Ziam tries to be a minute winner and a point fighter using that kickboxing background that he has. So which one of these guys is going to get their way? In my opinion, it's going to be McKinney, because that chaos doesn't allow Fares to set a measured pace that can be played for 15 minutes, that he can point fight, that he could stay on the outside, that he could win minutes with his striking. McKinney doesn't bring that kind of a game plan here. So when you have this 100% finish rate for, 100% finish rate against, all 11 wins by finish, 6 of them by submission, 5 of them by knockout, all 3 losses by finish, 2 of them by knockout, 1 of them by submission. Terrance McKinney, killer be killed fighter. Now you know why that fight doesn't go to decision. Is almost minus 200 here for a fight that's a lightweight fight, you guys. So very interesting here. I do have a bet on the under 2.5. I got it earlier in the week at minus 130. I'm in for 1.3 units. That's basically a bet that says whether Terrance McKinney gets it done or not, I believe Terrance McKinney is going to be the one setting the pace of this fight. And if I'm right about that, I think that this fight finishes inside the distance a very, very high percentage of the time. I would be comfortable even saying 80-85%, because when you got a guy with 14 professional fights and they've all finished inside the distance, and not only that, I think a very high percentage of them were first round finishes for or against. It makes me feel really good about this fight not seeing the third round. So that is the biggest bet that I've got on this fight, you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying right here in the chat before we get into these striking and grappling statistics, you guys. Right. And we've got, Raw Torque saying he's at Sanford now. I appreciate, people got to back me up on that stuff because when you go to Tapology and when you go to uh, Sure Dog, their camp, they always have the camp that the fighter is at. It's sometimes it's like 8-year-old information. They really don't update that information. And because I'm putting together these spreadsheets for all 12 fights and there's so much information for me to go and get, sometimes it's hard for me to say I'm going to spend an extra hour of the day. My dog just farted right behind me. This dog farts so loud, and now I've got to be in the room with it. This is not good. Anyway, he does that all the time to me, you guys. He just butters me nonstop. But what are you exhaling for? I'm the one that has to breathe it in. Now I lost my train of thought. But I was talking about Tapology and Sure Dog not updating the camp. So it really helps me when you guys know where these guys are training. You can just tell me and then I can update the sheet here. And my guy Jeffrey Korengold saying oi, and he's saying CTA time LFG. That means he is leaving work here in Chicago. He is getting on the public transportation, getting himself home so that he can enjoy the second half of his day. Big up yourself, Jeffrey. Good to see you hanging out in here. We got Big Checks Only saying, I thought one of his cornermen tested positive for COVID. That's why his last fight got canceled. I thought that's what it was. It's hard to remember. Sometimes it's the fighter, sometimes it's the cornerman, and almost every single time it's like they test positive, but they don't even get sick. So it's hard to keep that up until sometimes when you hear, oh shit, that person got sick and they had to miss some time and they had some problems. So I don't remember hearing anything about that with Ziam or McKinney. So it was one of the cornermen. T-Rex hasn't fought too many fighters taller than him, and when he has, he's lost 2 of 3. That's interesting. Because height is something that matters, but Terrance is somebody that does bring so much pressure that he could potentially close the distance here. Hype saying Terrance also doesn't really go past the first round, and Ziam likes to drag it out. I know. So that's where these time props get a little bit tricky. I think you have to kind of predict not is the fight going to finish inside the distance or not, but which one of these two fighters is going to set the pace. And I think that is going to be Terrance. Whether Terrance wins or not, I do believe that Terrance is the one that's the pace setter in this fight. Victor saying T-Rex needs a new celebration routine for sure, man. You got that right. Yeah, damn it, Bootsy. Yeah, Bootsy's just right down here, right on the floor, right behind me. This dog here. Wait, let me do that. Let me do that. We've got a big Rottweiler right there. It just takes up the entire floor. And you see that ass of his right there that's just constantly buttering us with farts. But, when you got a Rottweiler, that's what happens, man. Yeah, and Robert, new name, saying, sucks no Goldie. Yeah, I just heard that before I went live. Hannah Goldie is sick. She will not be fighting. I don't know if they're going to find Jin Yu Fry a new opponent on this short notice. But, hey, they can always pick up the phone and call Lupi Godinez because that woman is a G and she does take fights on short notice. Can she make 115 on short notice? I don't know. But yeah, my suggestion to Sean Shelby would be call Lupi. Lupi is the girl. Lupi's the one you call when you need someone on short notice, when you need a G to step up and take any fight against anybody on any day. But Sean V is saying Ziam doesn't deal well with pressure. Nope. That is very important, Sean V. You watch that Luigi Vendramini fight, and you see when Vendramini is happy to stay at range with Ziam, you just see him absolutely getting picked apart. The second he starts moving forward in the third round, not letting Ziam set his feet, putting him on his heels, not letting him throw those kicks, not letting him throw those feints to confuse him, that's when you see him absolutely start blasting Ziam. And what else has Ziam had problems with? We go back and we watch the Madge fight and we watch the Malarkey fight. And yes, he did well dealing with the wrestling. He didn't flat out let these guys take him down. He didn't give up a ton of minutes off his back just laying there. But he was able to be held up against the cage. He was able to be pressed there and put in a position where he couldn't bring off any offense. And Terrance McKinney is a way better wrestler, you guys, than both of those guys, Malarkey and Madge. He's way better than both of those guys in the wrestling department. You're talking about a Division II All-American here, I think second in the country in college, and one of the top high school wrestling prospects in the entire country. So this guy Terrance can absolutely get takedowns. And, and it's not just single and double A's. He does some pretty tricky stuff that I've seen him get, where he turns the corner after taking a shot that's not quite, it doesn't look like a good shot at first. And then you see that that was just a setup for him to get to the guy's back and turn the corner on some of these guys. He's tricky. He's good. And when he gets his opponent down, you guys, he winds up working for submissions. He's working the ground and pound, and he's working that ground and pound with the mind of, I'm trying to get these guys arm level up so that I can get my arm under his neck. Look, Terrance McKinney, we look at that Frivola fight and we think that he's out there knocking fools out. He's got more submissions than knockouts, you guys. He is very good on the ground, and we need to be cognizant of that. Let me bring these stats back up, since I didn't have to. You guys already know that the dog is to blame, but you can't smell it, thank God. So that's good. But yeah, anyway, so that's what I'm seeing here in terms of Terrance bringing a game plan that I think sets the pace in this fight, and that I think gives Ziam troubles. And McKinney all day here. Ziam hasn't been knocked out, but he's been rocked by much lesser opponents. He certainly got rocked, but by Vendramini there in that third round. LMAO. And we got Paul Brassfield saying Terrance can spark him out early for sure, but he does gas a bit in a short period of time. Also very wild punches and kicks. Falls every single time on that high kick, shaking my head. Yeah, man, he's very, very reckless. This is the guy that you would expect to hurt his knee celebrating a win. Same thing with Johnny Walker. I mean, Johnny Walker is exactly that archetype. He's wild. You don't know what's coming next. And because of that, it's what makes him so dangerous. When he does land some of those wild shots, sometimes you don't even see him coming. You're not expecting them. And there's really no way to recover getting hit by something like that. So that's why I think you really have to look at the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight, because whether or not Terrance lands that big high kick, or whether or not he's able to get that submission in the first round, the one thing that we do know is he's going to empty the tank going for it, so that in that second round, we could absolutely see him, be a completely different fighter. And then if he doesn't have the energy to bring the pressure that makes Ziam uncomfortable, to shoot the takedowns that'll keep Ziam on his heels and not at striking range, that's when you're going to see Ziam start to dictate the pace, start to dictate the distance, and he's going to start picking them apart. So I think either way, as long as Terrance sets the pace of this fight like he has been early, we're going to see this fight finish inside the distance. We got my guy Sean Cundy saying, thanks for the info, Weezy. Let's go. Let's go, Sean. Thanks for hanging out, brother. We got Matt saying, Loopy is way too big for 115. Will be so gangster. Yeah, and especially trying to cut that on 3 days' notice would be an absolute nightmare. But you know what? Loopy's your huckleberry, man. You're looking for a short notice replacement on 72 hours, man. Loopy's probably the first number in your book, even if it's for 45. Patrick Wah saying, new to your channel after finding you from DFS by the Numbers channel. Love the free fight models and all the deep dive content you put out. Cheers, man. I appreciate you, Patrick. Thanks for the kind words. Yeah, and for you guys who are watching for the first time, the link to the stats that you see up here on the screen are always free in the description of my videos. You can always find me on Twitter at MMA Weezy. I post the stats for the following week's fights, usually 7 or 8 days in advance. They're always free, you guys. Download them, follow along while we do these balls deep breakdowns, and you can have access to the same information that I do, because it is us against the bookies, and we got to team up and help each other out if we're going to get our money back from these clowns, because these guys make entirely too much money, and they're trying to make it off of us, man. And I'd rather make it off of them. So let's all work together. Raw Torque, so call Loopy catchweight. Damn right, man. Yeah. And Godinez is the female Bobby Brown, man. Bobby Green, actually. But yeah, actually, I know what you're saying with the Bobby Brown reference there. You can call and they'll pick up that phone, baby. But yeah, dude, female Bobby Brown, female Bobby Green stepping in on short notice, the female Kevin Holland, if you will. Always down to fight. Bobby Green, sorry, wrong color. Yeah, man, I'm with you, brother. And Blood Money's in here saying, what up, everyone else, too? What up, Weezy? Good to see you in here, Blood Money. We got my guy, Dhruv Nanda, ring a ding ding, giving a $5 donation to his Uncle Weezy. I appreciate you, Dhruv. Anybody that supports the channel, anybody that watches, anybody that donates, anybody that subscribes, anybody that hits that thumbs up button, I appreciate each and every one of you, man. I couldn't be able to do this without you guys watching, without you guys supporting. So big up yourself, Dhruv. I really appreciate the donation, brother. We got Paul Brasfield saying, but Uncle Weezy, how do you set a pace in a few seconds? Well, that's the point. That's the point. You just set the pace, and whether the pace lasts for 45 seconds or whether you can go for 45 minutes like Royce Gracie and Sakuraba used to, it's a pace. And we know that Terrance McKinney doesn't really set a pace that's meant to go past 5 minutes because he's so explosive. It really doesn't matter how good your conditioning is. When you throw 100% power into every punch, when you shoot takedowns from halfway across the cage, when you are constantly trying to move your opponent's body weight around and manipulate it, you get tired quickly, especially if you're trying to do those things in short bursts over and over again. So that's the pace that I'm counting on here. And Dhruv saying Weezy plus Brady the best. Much love to you, man. I really appreciate that. And it is a pleasure working with Brady at all times. And for those of you guys who can't get enough Weezy and Brady, I want to remind you that in 36 minutes, we will be live on Pub Sports Radio, breaking down this entire UFC Vegas 49 card from a DFS perspective. I already sent that link out on Twitter. So as soon as we're done with the Balls Deep breakdown here, your Uncle Weezy's going over to Pub Sports, and we're going to put out some more content over there to help you guys stack some cash tickets like flapjacks in the DFS realm. So don't be afraid to join us over there. Paul Brasfield saying Terrance is finishing these fights awful fast. Man, awful fast is right. Matthew saying, is it true they try to take our money, bro? Did you see the Chaz Skelly scorecards? If that fight went to decision, he was getting robbed. Are you kidding me? Sal D'Amato, Chris Lee, and Tony Weeks. Boy, those are names that get me like sitting bolt upright in my bed at like 4 o'clock in the morning, sweating when I have a decision ticket. And then, you know, like one goes one way, one goes the other way, and Sal D'Amato scores the fight. And that's when I wake up like, no, you know, oh my God, it's the worst, dude. I cannot believe that that's the case. Skelly was on that dude. Striegel wasn't winning that fight. That's bonkers. I can't even believe that. Chris Lee and Tony scored round 1 against him. Wow. That is, these judges, Matthew, these judges, man, they're unbelievable. I mean, yeah, that's correct, dude. I mean, like, Sal D'Amato is a disgrace he's a disgrace to the human race. Not just MMA, not just to MMA judging, not just to the commission that employs him, not just to his mother and father who have to be horribly ashamed, but really to every human being who tries to do their best on this planet. He is a disgrace to them. So, man, I couldn't agree with you more, Matt, on that, Matthew. My God. We got Matthew Chalk saying, oh, yeah, we got Nick there laughing. Appreciate you laughing, man. Now, let's get into these striking stats, you guys. We don't have much here. It's a very small sample size, but we're going to touch on a couple things that I find to be very important here. Terrance McKinney has landed 12 strikes in 2 UFC fights, and he's absorbed 4. And in those 4 strikes he's absorbed, he's been knocked down once. And in the 12 strikes he's landed a knockdown. So there's been 2 knockdowns, for and against, in 16 significant strikes absorbed by both fighters. So there's over a 10% chance in the 2-fight sample size that we have for Terrance McKinney that a knockdown will be landed in the first 8 strikes that are absorbed in the fight. That's how explosive Terrance McKinney fights have been thus far in the UFC. Fares Ziam, fairly low volume here, but that's not his fault. We'll see that when we get to the grappling stats, you guys. But he's landing 2.13 significant strikes per minute and absorbing 1.67. So that's 0.5 more significant strikes per minute than he lands, or no, it's 0.4, but still pretty good. 65% striking defense over a 3-fight sample size is excellent. When you watch Fares work at range, he's very good. He uses his footwork well defensively. He moves his head and he manages range well. Because he's such a big lightweight, he can manage range, hit you with his jab, and you're not in range to hit him. So he's very good defensively. McKinney is just is like a Tasmanian devil. He's just coming to take your head off with every strike that he throws. And if he throws and he misses, he's probably halfway in on a shot on your hips. So that's the kind of game plan that he brings. Fares Ziam, you guys, does have a kickboxing background, was a K1 champ at the age of 18, I think. So, in the younger weight classes, but the guy, his base is kickboxing. However, when you go and you watch the regional scene footage on this kid, he's not just a kickboxer. He can get takedowns. He can win minutes getting top control against pure strikers. So he is more well-rounded than you think. And a lot of people, when they think of Terrance McKinney, they think of a guy who just, knocks people out with head kicks and with huge punches, but he's so much more than that. He's a great wrestler. He's a great grappler, and he's got more wins by submission than he does by knockout. So Fares Ziam's grappling is better than you think it is, and Terrance McKinney's grappling is better than you think it is. So I think we think of Ziam as a striker first, and we think of McKinney as like a first-round killer-be-killed fighter, but these guys are both more well-rounded than they appear to be on paper. When we look at the grappling stats here, we see Terrance McKinney has attempted 6 takedowns. He's gotten 2 of them, and he's got a ton of control time, you guys. He basically controlled the entire Sean Woodson fight until Woodson got up from a takedown in the second round, and Terrance went to go rinse and repeat and go for that takedown right again, and he shot right into a jump knee and was separated from his consciousness. I think it's kind of a meme out there that he was exhausted at that point. I didn't see that. I think he just got caught shooting for a takedown that was very predictable to shoot for at the time. Ziam has gotten 1 of his 9 takedown attempts. He's only controlled his opponents for 8% of his UFC cage time, and he's been controlled for 43.78% of his UFC career. 69% takedown defense, and he's averaging being taken down 3 times for 15 minutes. So not only does McKinney have a chance, I think, here to land a big shot and knock out Ziam, or land a bunch of takedowns, land ground and pound, work for submissions, potentially win minutes and rounds with his grappling. But we've seen Ziam not deal with pressure well in the 3rd round of the Venturini fight, and we've seen him not deal with wrestling heavy game plans well in the Madge and the Malarkey fights. So I think that there's a good opportunity here for McKinney to do 2 things that he does very well that Ziam doesn't deal with well. Number 1, bring pressure on the feet. That's the first thing that he needs to do. If he brings that pressure on the feet, Fares won't be able to set his feet. He won't be able to throw power strikes. He won't be able to manage distance, and he'll be running the whole time, which means he won't be bringing his own offense. Second of all, when you bring that pressure and you mix in your striking with your wrestling attacks, it makes it more likely you're going to get those takedowns. Once he gets on top, he can win minutes, but he can also land a lot of ground and pound to potentially finish the fight with a submission. I think that McKinney's a much better and more talented grappler than Malarkey and Madge were. Madge is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but he's more known for his kickboxing. And the same thing with Malarkey. We see that this guy has got a lot of power in his hands, but he wasn't willing to stand with Ziam because he saw a weakness there. So I think that the grappling is going to be a very big part of this fight. And we've seen McKinney win minutes against Sean Woodson there, and we've seen Fares Ziam give up minutes against Madge and Malarkey in the grappling. So I think that this particular matchup, as impressed as I am with the total mixed martial arts game of Fares Ziam, as much as I think that the arrow is pointing up for him, as much as I love the fact that he's at Sanford and that kickboxing is going to be getting even better, and he's going to have the opportunity to work with some great wrestlers over there who can help out with his defensive wrestling game, I just don't like this particular matchup because I think McKinney brings everything that Ziam is uncomfortable with in one package, and everything that Ziam is uncomfortable with, McKinney is absolutely comfortable in bringing that, and that has been his game plan since his first fight as a pro mixed martial artist. So I do see Fares Ziam getting hurt early in this fight and not dealing with the pressure and the wrestling of Terrance McKinney well. But I could be wrong about that. I don't have a bet on the money line for this fight, and I don't have a bet on any props in terms of finish props inside the distance decision. But I do have a 1.3 unit bet on the fight on the under 2.5 for this fight. So that's and I got that at minus 130. Let's see what you guys are talking about here in the chat before we get to these strength of schedule stats. We've got the human race. That's right, Matthew. Is an absolute disgrace to the human race. And Alex Ramirez, the general, is in here taking notes. I salute you, General. Good to see you. Big checks only. Felt like that DePaula Belbita fight should have been split decision, not unanimous. That was a great fight. It was back and forth. I had no idea who won that fight, and I had nothing invested in it. So I was expecting, I was expecting it to be very close. I didn't have a problem with the decision, but yeah, it could have absolutely went either way. And we got Nick Alexander in here taking notes too. We got Victor said, I've said before and I'll say it again, Sal D'Amato was on crack. He potentially, I don't know. I don't know what he does in his spare time, but I do know that when he's officially on duty, he's very, very bad at his job. Man, Sal D'Amato, you got that right, dude. And we got Just My 2 Cents in the room saying, what's up, Weezy? What's up, Just My 2 Cents? Good to see you here. He's saying what's up to the chat. We got Silky B saying, violence bets leave the judges out. This is McKinney by finish. If decision, no action type play. Yeah, and you can get McKinney pretty close, man, on that decision prop. Or I mean on the finish only prop. And I believe he's still just a little bit negative, like maybe 105, minus 105. It's not a bad bet. We got Silky B saying Ori might wrestle for 3 rounds. Yeah, that could be. He was doing exactly that against Woodson, and he got caught. Matthew Buchanan saying under 2.5 is minus 145. Play might be under 1.5 at plus 135. All of McKinney's losses are inside that time frame. 8% of it or so of his wins are inside it. Yeah. I mean, like a huge percentage of his wins are inside of it. And we can even kind of like take a look here, you guys, at McKinney. We'll take a look at the wins and we'll see if any of these wins have come in the third round. So round one. We got Brandon Todd, heel hook, 43 seconds of round 3. That's Cage Sport 50 back in 2018. He lost to Tyrone Henderson with a leg injury in the first. 7 seconds round 1, 257 round 1, 43 seconds round 1. He lost to Woodson in round 2. He got triangle choked by Minner in round 1. Round one. So, yeah, man, the under 1.5 is definitely live, and it's live because of the pace and the style that Terrance McKinney brings every time he fights. We got my guy DFS by the number saying, oi, yes. What's up, dude? I'll be seeing you in 24 minutes on Pub Sports Radio. We got outside of it, yeah. And Nick saying, I think you're spot on, Weezy. I agree completely. I appreciate that. We got wondering what McKinney looks like in the second or third if he doesn't get the finish. Well, I don't think he's going to have much left. So I think that we could potentially see Ziam get the finish. And when you watch the regional scene footage on Ziam, he's got some great head kick knockouts. He's got some savage knockouts and some great power in his own right. And bad conditioning or just emptying the gas tank means that you're way more likely to get finished. And Ziam has the hand speed and the power to do that should Terrance run out of gas. And yep, we're all agreeing with that. McKinney loses his fights under 1.5, every single one of them. Yes, sir, Matthew. And Nick saying, yeah, probably not good sense, but pretty sure he won't see round 2. Yeah, it probably won't see round 2. But in the strength of schedule stats here, you guys see 1.67 win-loss ratio for McKinney's opponents, 1.33 for Ziam, and 4 total fights for a McKinney opponent and 2.33 for Ziam. So McKinney's fighting the better win-loss ratio competition and the more experienced competition. And the wins are slightly better too, as 2 more total fights and a half more in the ratio. So both of these guys, the strength of schedule is close, but McKinney's done just a little bit better fighting Frivola and Sean Woodson, while Ziam has fought Venturini, Malarkey, and Madge. And I'll tell you something. If we look at Terrance's pre-UFC fights, 12-3 Ortiz in LFA, 10-4 Gavino in LFA, 3-2 Diedrich Sanders in SHP. He lost to Minner, who's a UFC fighter. He lost to Woodson in the Contender Series, a UFC fighter. He fought Sharon Spain, 16-30. At least the guy's experienced. Bobby McIntyre, 9-5. Jeff Coleman, 0-4. And then here at the beginning, you see some names. Brandon Todd, 5-1. Armando Best a couple of different times. Tyrone Henderson. But when we look at Ziam, he had some really good pre-UFC level competition, you guys. He's fighting 6 fights into a career, fighting one of the Lapalus brothers, knocking him out with a head kick. Fought in ACB against Vishkan Magomedov. You look at the opponents' records here. They're very good. 12-10, 8-6, 22-10, 13-6, 3-2, 1-1, 3-1. First 2 fights against 0-0, 2-0 fighters. Abner Uveris, who fought on the Ultimate Fighter, 21-8, win there. Win over an undefeated Matos, a 5-1 Yassin Belhaj. So he came into the UFC having already been tested on the regional scene in Europe, and prior to that, having a very really nice kickboxing pedigree at a very young age. So I'm very excited for both of these guys in the UFC. I think that they're going to bring a lot of excitement, both of them. I think they both have very high ceilings. The way that I'm handicapping this fight, though, you guys, is that the style that McKinney brings really does seem to be where Ziam is at his weakest. And I do expect Ziam to be making improvements. I do expect him to deal with wrestling attacks better, to deal with pressure better, because those are clearly things that he needs to work on. And I think that, him being at a good camp like Sanford, they're going to be very aware of what Terrance McKinney does well, and they're going to have him prepared to deal with the pressure of McKinney, to deal with the wrestling-heavy game plan, and to come up with a game plan that will allow him to survive for 5-6 minutes with Terrance until that gas tank empties, and then he could start to do his work. But Terrance is just a very difficult guy to plan for. You can't really spar like you're going to fight Terrance McKinney in the gym, because you won't even make it to the fight. So this is going to be a great fight. 2 super high upside prospects, 2 really exciting guys with fantastic skill sets and very well-rounded for their age. The pick is going to be Terrance McKinney by first round knockout, you guys, via ground and pound. But the bet that I have made is that the fight doesn't go to decision, because I think if McKinney doesn't get it done in the first, there's a very high probability he won't have much left in the second, and we'll see Fares Ziam striking take over, and that he can do what all of McKinney's opponents have done in the past that have beat him, which is finish him inside of a round and a half. So the bet is fight doesn't go to decision, or under 2.5. The pick is Terrance McKinney by first round knockout. And that leaves us 39 minutes into the broadcast here. So we're going to see what you guys have to say. And then let's see. We got my guy Chris Harm saying, "Oi, my brother. Sorry I'm late to the party. Good to have you here, Chris. Much love, much appreciation to you, brother." We've got Dhruv Nanda say Ziam round 2 plus 650. I like that, man. I think that's a great spot, Dhruv. If he survives that first, I think that the second is when we see him get that finish, especially if McKinney goes to the wrestling and has to chain wrestle, has to, really work to get 3 or 4 takedowns, and Fares keeps getting back to his feet, keeps not being satisfied being on his back or on his butt, really makes McKinney work. You could absolutely see him get a finish in round 2 or round 3. And Ziam round 1 is plus 400. I wonder what round 3 is. Probably close to a plus 1,000, and that would be pretty good too. Really like those props, the round 2 in particular. the longer this fight goes, the lower McKinney's IQ. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm thinking the same, says Nathan. McKinney wins round 1, anything over 1.5 violence. Burgundy bets in the room. Good to see you in here, Burgundy. We got Nathan saying, I feel he loses. We got Lars Jesperson saying, I'm going to live bet this one. Hashtag you got this. I love it, man. Yeah, man. Live betting is very interesting, especially for this fight, because you just kind of watch McKinney and you start to, when you see him take that first really big breath, maybe it's time to bet Ziam, especially if McKinney has had success early and the line is getting wide. Size of the cage could be the difference maker. It's a small cage. I think that really matters. McKinney KO round 1. That's what I'm picking, Nick. I'm right there with you, man. And Raw Torque says the same. Stoked to see everyone's favorite uncle over the 1,000 sub mark. Man, I appreciate that, Ron. It was a long time coming. We did a lot of broadcasts to get there. We're there. And now we're just looking for the next numbers, and we're looking to build the show, and we're looking to improve the show. It's all about the improvement, bringing better graphics, bringing more stats, and doing as good as I could do for you guys who are my audience. So I appreciate each and every one of you. Just my 2 cents saying, I don't know. I think Ziam is a little more durable than Matt Frivola. Yeah, well, he's never been finished in the UFC, that's for sure. Has Ziam been finished in his 3 losses? He has been subbed twice. So, yeah. In these guys' 6 combined losses, 5 have been inside the distance. So I love that for a fight doesn't go to decision bet. And then we got Jason P saying this could be over in 8 seconds. And man, that is the way that Terrance McKinney T-Rex fights. You guys, thank you so much for joining me for a 45-minute balls deep breakdown here on a Wednesday afternoon. I will be back tonight on my channel, 10:30 Central Time, and we're going to break down the Gregory Rodriguez versus Armen Petrosyan fight. I think it's a very fascinating fight. And as soon as I check off here, I'm going to go and get with the guys over at Pub Sports Radio, and we are going to do the DFS show and break down this UFC Vegas 49 from a DFS perspective. God bless each and every one of you guys for hanging out here. Drew, thank you for the donation, and I will see you guys later on tonight. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks, you guys, for UFC Vegas 49, but we're not done working yet. One more balls deep breakdown tonight, 10:30 Central Time. And right now, just come on over to Pub Sports Radio and we'll break down some DFS with you guys. Take care. We'll see you soon.